your bum at the back of the seat there, just for height wise, and just you can do what you need. Perfect. You'll look so tall. On purpose.
I like a big canvas.
Yeah. You're an artist, though, aren't you? Just swing that around in front of your chest like that, and then you're going to talk over the top of it.
Does that mean that I can no longer cross my legs?
If you go close enough, hang on, let's do that. Just talk over the top of it.
Okay.
It'll disappear soon enough. But you're an artist, so you would appreciate a big canvas.
I love a big canvas. Yeah.
Do you do big canvases normally?
Not that big, but I'm not good at small.
Right.
As soon as I try and scale down, I get completely sort of head fucked by it.
What? Because it's just not enough space?
No, it's it's not enough space for the movement involved in the painting. Because I'm quite physical, it almost becomes, it's not a piece of choreography, but there's almost a dance element to it, where I like the physicality of the movement of throwing the paint and moving it all around. And then when you scale that down, you have less space to move and play. But then also visually, I then I will move it to over detailing. Becomes a bit too fiddly. I get more restrained and more. Don't know. It just visually just doesn't play right for me. So yeah, I prefer a larger canvas to throw myself at.
I mean, let's stay with art. Obviously, our relationship is based upon your living or your job, perhaps. Let's say, but I'd like to, I think, explore your art side of your life.
So would I.
Creativity.
Yeah,
well, there you go.
News to me. Yeah.
So it's a nice opportunity to do so in creativity. So where did it start? Where did you start?
Oh God.
The highlights. Don't need the life story.
There's an element of. I mean, the interesting thing for me is that it was only this year, for the first time, that I actually posted one of my pieces of visual work actually on LinkedIn.
Wow.
And I've really struggled to get myself to that point of being willing to go out and be public, that, I am a painter, a creative practitioner. And I mean, in many ways, it was actually easier to come out as queer, 40 years ago, than coming out now as a creative practitioner for myself.
That's quite a thing.
Yeah. I mean, I've always practiced creatively, and then I hit a point when I was going through the glories of the British academic system, going into, I did the baccalaureate rather than A-levels, and my parents decided that art was not an appropriate subject to proceed with. So they banned me from actually doing it as a subject. And then I just sort of, so, and that was that was quite a significant sort of, slap, one, in terms of that level of so-called parental control. Never appreciated that. And then also in terms of being sort of, just putting something in a devalued box. But, I twisted that round in my early 20s. I played around with designing and making jewellery. I was designing and making clothes. There was always a creative element in play, regardless of what I was doing professionally. Not that I was doing much professionally at that point. And then to have hit a couple of, 10, 15 years later, I decided to pick up the paintbrush.
Wow. What do you hope people gain from your work?
Well, they don't gain much from it because very few people see it. Um, I think it's more that I would like them. I was having a conversation with someone professionally yesterday, and in the background on that that Zoom call world, they had an easel with no canvas on it, and I just asked the question: "You've got an easel in the background, why is it there?" And she said, "Well, I felt a few years ago that I wanted to paint, so I bought the kit, I bought everything, and I've never actually opened the box." And then it goes into, why haven't you opened the box? Where are those restraints? Where, and it's unearthing that freedom, unearthing that ability just to be open to it, just to be able to play with it. You don't need to have a technique to be able to put paint on canvas. If you do have that knowledge base, those skills, you've got an education in it, you've got that, that understanding of how the paints work, how they move, and the different techniques. Brilliant. But as a starting point, you just don't need it. You can just use your hands, use your brush, just to get something on the canvas, and you then can determine whether you share it, burn it, hide it, etc.
Tell me about the restraints.
Which restraints?
Your restraints.
In terms of
well, it's, as you said, this year it's the first time you've ever posted and shared.
I think part of that is informed is my, in many ways, so many of the areas I've gone into have been fed by a skill-based understanding of that arena, or learning the skills, or learning the intellectual processes. I think for painting has been approaching it from a naive perspective, and learning what works, what doesn't work, very much on the go as part of the process. And maybe I disqualified myself from not having an art school background, that art school pedigree. But then again, virtually everything I've done professionally or creatively hasn't actually been informed by any form of a qualification. So, there is absolutely a sense of self-censorship there.
So it seems to me what you're saying about the wonders of the British education system. There's something about education that there's an angst there. Where does that come from?
I think this is an angst. Is it an angst, or is it just that I get part of it is that pseudo middle class family, the first child in the larger family to make it into a university education.
Right.
So that carries a weight with it, whether you like it or not. I did my best to get thrown out of university, but that just didn't happen. I don't know if I carry. I think I carry an anxiety about the academic restraints, the way you get pigeonholed, the way you get narrowed down and focused from a very early age within our system.
Into a box.
Yeah, you get put into a box, and I think for many people, you spend the rest of your life trying to find doorways out of that box, or corridors around it, or steps out, or or even the roof to throw yourself off. I mean, it's that's where we're not open enough about or my generation certainly weren't open enough about how to maneuver around those restraints.
Well, talking of being open, Damn. What do you wish people understood about you?
It depends who.
Sure.
Yeah, I can be mildly to viciously acerbic, but normally the people I'm most acerbic to is the sort of, it's informed by love.
You've got to teach me a new word here. Acerbic.
Yeah, bitterly sarcastic, sharp. I think you've probably been at the receiving end of it on occasion.
Certainly. I wanted to sort of raise my eyebrows and do that, but didn't quite know what you meant. But yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean, don't know, maybe to have, the heart is intermittently in the right place.
But go on, you were saying it depends who.
Depends who. It's that space between the personal into the professional and all of the layers in relationships in between. So many of my, if you like, publicly identified professional relationships are also deeply personal. And yes, so how do you wish to be? How do you wish to be seen? How do you wish to be understood? Oh, just some some old puff that's sort of been knocking around for a while, really.
You do it well. Yeah, I mean, wow. There is, it's especially, and I've certainly seen that in you, that it is all encompassing. You know, you do run a lifestyle sort of job, business.
Yeah. I think that's, well, first of all, if you have ever been schooled in how the entertainment industry works, lives, survives, it is a 24/7 industry. You're not allowed to step back, step out. It's improved a lot from where it was. I had to break out of it for a number of years when my son was born, because it just wasn't viable to, carry on with those dual lifestyles and have any sense of parental responsibility for him. Really, it was sort of, I didn't want to always be passing the buck to the other key parent stakeholders involved. I wanted to be there, and so it's, but yes, for work or the broader scope of work, if I drag painting and creative practice into that, is, it's, with me 24/7. My head isn't very good at stopping.
Why?
Just probably a combination of psychological scarring, neurosis, but also a desire to have flipped over with a desire to learn, grow, and curiosity.
What's so wonderful about having great conversations in well-lit situations is of this ilk, is I think I'm sort of learning that this is this experiment, which is characters, is kind of about human condition and lifting the veil and empathy and trying to get beyond what we all think everybody's got it sorted, but actually we're all doing that, paddling.
Or the hamster wheel.
All the hamster wheel, running around, and with that comes a a leap of faith.
Hmm.
You know that there are going to be people out there and say what they're going to say and things like that. But we're not focused on that. We're focused on the one person out there who doesn't say anything and maybe just watches a couple of things and goes, he's put his finger on it. That's exactly what I'm struggling with. That's exactly what I've been, battling with.
I mean, I think the one thing that I have learned to be pretty straightforward. And I do have a tendency to shoot from the hip, which you've also been on the receiving end of.
Certainly.
I think that's something is within some people's DNA. But for me, it actually did become quite important to be able to express. And as part of that expression, you're actually exposing yourself as well. The facade of performance in both the professional and the personal lives can be too dishonest, can dismantle your own sense of well-being.
Have you always been straightforward?
Nah. No, I spent the a large part of my life hiding away. I spent, there's always been a performance element within me, I discovered. I mean, I think for most of my childhood into my teens and well beyond, I very much sang to other people's expected requirements. It was to have, finding my voice, beginning to find a voice in the 20s, certainly coming out aided that. And then it's sort of been a sustained growth. It's also in a professional space, it's actually bloody difficult to be straightforward.
Certainly.
And at the outset, you're frequently in a role where being straightforward, open, and opinionated is actually not appreciated or celebrated or encouraged.
Should it be?
I think it should be encouraged more. It is that it then becomes a conversation of how hierarchical structure should be and where is the responsibility for the buck stopping and how many voices you need coming into that process of deciding where the buck stops.
We've talked about this before.
I'm going to enjoy this, obviously.
your learned skill, I believe it's learned skill of letting the silence sit in negotiations or meetings, or just letting the other person just do what they need to do and faff around and wait for a response and that sort of thing. And that, tell me about that. Well, do you want to call it a technique or?
It's a learnt and adapted. And I think what it's dovetailed into is actually allowing a space for other voices to be heard. It's not only trying to. There's a duality to it.
It's not a power move. It's not only a power move.
It's not only a power move. I mean, it can very overtly be a power move in that it can actually, it allows a space for something maybe unexpected to be said that actually changes a negotiation pathway. In that sense, frequently, yes, it is a power move. I think it can also be deployed as a space to allow people who don't always think they have a voice to give them a space to have a voice.
Which in a team setting is vital.
Yeah. As a skill, I first really became aware of it on a cultural basis when I was working with people out of Taiwan. Yeah.
Yeah, incredible, and something that I desperately struggle with, because I will quite happily just flap in front of people openly.
That's what I did. I
Yeah.
mean, and I should revisit some of the people I was in conversation with or in those big corporate meetings with, and try and ascertain whether what was informing that technique, whether it was a gap of silence because no one felt enabled to step into it, or if it was a gap of silence deliberately expecting me to stumble into it. And I think it was a bit of both.
You can't possibly know how people are going to react to silence, because can be for some people quite less of a silence and more of a void.
I mean, on a personal note, it was, a couple of years back, I went around the Nibia with a really good friend, Stu. Now, when Stu and I get together, we just literally, it's chatter to just continuous talk. And that's what he's used to as a practice from me. What was interesting in Namibia is you're then driving across deserts for 6 hours, 7 hours. It's just
Impossible to fill.
it's impossible to talk that for that long. But he's not used to me being quiet. And he actually ended up we did sort it out, but he actually ended up being really anxious that he had somehow managed to seriously piss me off, and I wasn't enjoying myself. I was having a shit break holiday with him, and because it wasn't that continuous natter. So even in the personal relationships, it carries there is a real power to it.
The ability to be able to sit in a silence. Yeah. What emotional obstacles prevent you from achieving your goals?
Oh God, that's a therapy bill. I mean, I think so anxiety, absolutely. To have a fluctuating disbelief of my own ability and skill sets. To have just also a social anxiety. To have there's a whole raft of them, and a really fundamental level of insecurity underpinning a lot of it.
So, how might have you sabotaged your own success?
Oh, multiple times. Normally by to have not playing by the HR rule book.
Yeah.
No. So I think an absence of self-belief has sabotaged. I think also on the flip side of that, an honesty and wanting to be fair has sabotaged quite frequently. Having a belief in people that they will do the honourable thing has sabotaged me on so many occasions. Yeah. It does a healthy dose of cynicism doesn't go amiss, particularly in a professional business space. And to have on any number of counts, I wish I'd had less belief in people's honours, where they've then actually proceeded to pull the rug out from under me, both to review financially and emotionally, and just basically screwed me over.
It sounds like you're very trusting.
I think I largely do. I think there is. I think it. I respond very intuitively to people. If I take against someone from a first meeting, I have got over that, but it does take a while for someone's strength, honesty to reveal their own, that they are a delight and fun to be with, to come through. But I think overall, if I think some element of more cynicism or an element of more self-protection would have actually been useful, not just chucking your faith, to view. Yeah.
Difficult, and probably another skill to kind of allow a person to come through because of their own perhaps insecurities or worries or anxiety or whatever. So they appear a certain way in the first meeting, but then you see them again and actually.
Yeah, it depends upon the person.
Sure.
Yeah, some people I just carry on disliking.
Well, as people do exist, yes, for one reason or another.
Yeah.
A challenge. What has been a serious disappointment?
I would, because that's where the head is currently, because of what you've raised. I think a serious disappointment is people's selfish greed, where their selfishness, their greed, and which to a large extent on each individual case, that is rattling through my mind, I have some understanding of, informs really destructive and poisonous behaviour. It's just sad.
I'm sure in the entertainment industry there's a bit of that about.
Oh, there's plenty of that in the entertainment industry, but there's plenty of that across all industries. I don't think the entertainment has any exclusivity in that space at all. I think the element within the entertainment sector is that it's the ego keeping the head above the parapet, and the survival also has a certain urgency to it, and that can also inform the gameplay.
If they were being mean, what might the people you live among at the moment say about you?
Oh, I'm a self-obsessed workaholic. Yeah, that's probably workaholic would be thrown at me quite a lot. To review, a selfishness. Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah.
Have you always been able to say that?
Probably not, because to be fair, I probably wouldn't have valued myself enough to be selfish.
And how does it feel to be able to sit in that space now? To be able to say, yeah, this is what you get.
I don't know whether it merits celebrating or not, to be honest. It's interesting to be able to sit there and sit here and say it and feel have no ramrod of guilt
Sure.
shoved up me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, sure.
But and it's and I'm quite comfortable in acknowledging it. So yeah.
There's a sort of fantastical obsession, I think. I certainly feel it, of an expectation for everyone to be able to be everything to everyone. So having all of these, well, if that's wrong about you, then that's something that you should fix. But there's this fantastic concept which I've learnt and known to be called the weakness of strength, which is these are all of my strengths, and these are all of the weaknesses that come with those strengths. And ever since I've learnt that, I can fully appreciate why you're now able to sit there and say,
yeah, but also I think it it merits flipping round, is being able to see, understand, acknowledge a weakness is also a strength, and a weakness can be a strength. It's just how what habits they inform within you, how they get deployed, how they mess around with you or don't mess around with you. It's the learning of I mean, in a way, it's the learning of playing to your weaknesses and your strengths. And if you put that into professional landscape, you support your weaknesses with the other people that you're working with the other people within the team. So there becomes a counterpoint. You know where you can cover the ground with some security or some fluency. And when you look at other points and you think, nah, I'm just completely screwed there. That's not my arena. Who best can play into that space.
fantastic ability to be able to then build a team to get stuff done.
On occasion.
But then you have, but then it's the trust, and it's finding the right people, and it's yeah.
No, I mean an ability to build a team and actually have absolute faith in not only in what other people are bringing to the team, but also the recommendations that they make in terms of growing the team and how you create a new family. I'm not a big fan of the word family in any traditional sense, but the idea of a family as a group of people who can cohabit for even a short window of time, with humour, love, affection, and alongside an ability to get stuff done in a professional space is just to see that come together, to see that grow and blossom is just magical.
What does family mean to you?
Oh, family is just people that I have an element of safety with, and there is absolutely no requirement that they need to be of blood. In actual fact, it's normally preferable that they're not.
Family, yes. Challenging for everyone.
I decided when in my early 20s or later, that my family moving forward was going to be a family that we were going to create together rather than the traditional family model. And I think that's what is something for everybody to learn, that you don't need to be restrained to traditional formats, traditional to set processes. You can disrupt that.
Choose.
You can choose. You can select.
Powerful.
Useful. Powerful and useful. Yeah.
Going back right to the start, tell me about finding your own voice.
That is going to sound slightly hackneyed to an extent, because the part of finding my voice was actually coming out at that point as gay, to be as queer, whatever, and it feels sort of slightly overworked, that sense of a sexual identity informing and enabling a voice. But that is where my voice started from.
Sure. And that whole generation, I can't imagine the struggle that would have been at the time. I mean, you hear stories, but it's the struggle with identity that comes with that at the time must have been.
I'm not that old.
Extraordinary. Well,
no, I am.
I'm making. I'm making it. Do you know? You know what I mean?
No. It's it depends upon how. I mean, I was. Yeah, I mean, as that the hackneyed, traditional queer boy childhood. I played with the dolls. I was bullied at school, to have beaten up, etc. I mean, yes, absolutely. That was not being allowed an identity or a voice, or that always being smothered. Largely, I have been incredibly fortunate after moving into late teens, early 20s. I have been incredibly fortunate with the people that I've been surrounded by, where that that voice has been encouraged, embraced, celebrated, not across the board by any means, but and other than the traditional blood family, actually coming out was a giggle. That was fairly straightforward.
That's where the giggles started. By the
yeah. So, but and also professionally, I've apart from the fact that I've I looked to I looked like a caricature of a new romantic puff back in the days, but I carried that look through professionally, and that was how I went to work. And I was allowed to. I was, encouraged or not discouraged from wearing strange, being slightly, massively off kilter with the rest. I was incredibly lucky. And I was encouraged to grow professionally, even with this sort of, this rather flamboyant facade, by some extraordinary people who were breathtakingly supportive, took on this sort of, this rather shy but very flamboyant puff.
Amazing. I knew I'd enjoy this. Who or what might have stopped you from realizing your full potential?
Oh, that's pretty straightforward. It was sort of, I mean, the blood family to have, were to have a massive point of ongoing to have disapproval, effectively, until I was able to psychologically, emotionally psychically almost shrug them off. You know, and above and beyond them is actually our larger, which is sounds going to sound slightly pompous, but it is actually the larger sort of heteropatriarchal dominance within our society. That is pretty oppressive.
Horrendous. Yeah, it's another word for it. Unbelievable. And how do you feel with time that has changed?
From a societal perspective, the roots of all of those elements are still very much in play. The extent to which they have been diluted, I think they have been diluted, but they're still really underpinning to most informed behaviour. What is glorious to see is a sense of generations coming through who don't have quite that sense of restraint, don't have quite that sense of those societal oppressions being so present. I'm blessed with, God, is now 21, a 21-year-old, and if I look at how he approaches life, how his friends, how they approach, how they are, my sense of his peer group and for him in his peer group is that there is some notes where there is more understanding, there is more fluency, there is they're just a bit more able to be themselves.
And what does that mean to you?
Oh, it's fantastic to see. Because if you're able to be yourself, you approach the world. I think your perspective outwards to the world is one which is more generous.
And what does that do for the world?
Well, in the current climate, not a great deal. But it will. Time will tell. Let that generation grow into their power, grow into their voices, and hopefully things will shift. I very much hope so.
Do you think it's possible? Are you optimistic or pessimistic?
No, I think if larger parts of the mature, older generations, and I dump myself very much in that category.
Oh, you're not that old.
Yeah, I am. Were willing to be more open to the voices of the younger generations, it would be a damn sight better. And I'm hoping that those voices will come through quicker. So in that sense, yeah, there's I remain cynically positive.
Perfect. Why did you come?
Because you told me to.
I didn't realise I had that power over you.
Of course you do. You left moments of silence. I was given no choice.
Yeah, yes, quite. Yeah. Well, I learned that from the best. Absolutely amazing. Do you feel you live an ordinary or an extraordinary life?
I live a life that's been created, informed with the people I love around me. And that was never going to be ordinary.
You're a superstar.
No. I have my moments
No,
of having to review.
you're amazing. I've so much time for you, Tim, and I really appreciate everything you've done for me. And you know, ever since I met Alex, you know, he brought me under his wing, and then, and if we're talking about flourishing, then you guys have had a massive, massive part to play in that for me.
Well, that's no, like, yeah.
And so, really, you know, getting you on here, I know it's slightly ambiguous and potentially uncomfortable, and it's like, oh, do I really have to? But I really appreciate it.
No, it's been. I had no idea what I was coming into, but step back slightly from that. Thank you. You know, it's what I think. In terms of Alex, myself, Alejandro, Jojo, as that is what we want to create environments where people flourish. You know, and that's really, really important to allow people a space to grow, and be able to grow safely. Even if I can be sort of, you know, an acerbic drama, have the moments of drama.
Well, it'd be boring. God, it's got to be exciting. Keep it spicy. Thank you.
It's my pleasure.